I'm Sarah the Rebel.
And I'm MisfitsTamara.
And this is Women Wrestling Friends, a podcast where we talk about wrestling with women. Whoa, crazy name. Anyway, today's gal pal, aka woman, aka friend that we're going to talk to is Victorya. Hi. Victorya is a model and an aspiring wrestler. Did I say aspiring right? It feels
Aspiring. Yes, it's fine.
It's right. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Like inspiring and inspiring.
It's fine.
That I met at Santino Rose Wrestling when we were both training together. But we'll talk about that a little more. Today, our main topic is 2017 in review. Review. That was my echo. I hope you guys liked it. This might have been a year where everything was on fire for us, literally on fire. Literally. Like burning.
Literally.
But in wrestling was not quite a dumpster fire. There were some negatives, but there were also some positives.
Yes, definitely positives.
So we're going to talk about it a little bit. I mean, we got Jericho and Kenny Omega feud. Who, raise your hand if you thought that was happening ever. Yeah, exactly. Kind of crazy.
Jericho doing
doing
those run-ins and like busting his head open and beating up one of the announcers. I was like, what?
What is happening, right? And I was walking away from a Raw, I think it was Raw or SmackDown. It might have been SmackDown. It was Raw at Staples Center. And as I walk out there, across the street from the Staples Center, for anyone who's never been, there's kind of an open courtyard with a bunch of restaurants. And for Christmas, they have a big Christmas tree and a skating rink, which is too expensive for me, but whatever. But they have giant jumbo screens all over. And it was Jericho on the screens talking about New Japan, and I was like, "Ooh, you slick." So that's happening. The indie scene is at a really great place due to like social media and what people can do there. People like Joey Ryan are leading the charge there, and the Young Bucks. And hey, we had the Mae Young Classic this year.
We did. Yeah. A huge leap forward. This is just parsecs apart from the bra and panty matches.
Oh yeah.
That we used to do. And Star Wars nerds, I'm using that knowing full well that it is both time and distance.
Did you guys see I gave her a little bit of a side eye?
I did it on purpose. I just wanted to throw that there.
Because we all know.
It's time and distance.
Like,
yes,
that ain't make no sense when Han Solo said that crazy mess out of his mouth. And they said it again in the new movie, no spoilers, but they said parsecs again, and I was like, I did that little face. Yeah. On the other hand,
Star Wars is
some negative things that happened. Jinder became champion.
Okay, I don't think that's as bad as you do.
Okay, we can discuss.
We can discuss that later. There's a up and a down to that we will
The only
discuss.
up is I do like his suits. Emma was released from her stanking contract, some bush. And the person who retired Undertaker was Roman Reigns. Everyone was so mad about that.
Yeah, super mad. Like, is it like retired, or do you think it's like?
I think it's gone. He's gone.
I think he don't want to do them two stones anymore. He's bad on the knees. Have you seen Kane doing those two stones now? Like even Kane's kind of like.
It's hard for me to watch some of the older wrestlers like Kane and Undertaker wrestle because you can really, especially when you've had a little training like we have, you can see that like stuff is hurting them or their opponents are really having to take a lot of.
If it's not executed correctly, someone's getting hurt for sure.
And it's particularly difficult when you have them in the ring with Braun, who is exceptionally like lithe for such a large man. So like you're like, oh, guess what? Look at the brand new big man who can like do all these move. Move, which I think a lot of them could do also, but I don't think enough of them could do.
Yeah. And at his age, when he was Braun's age, definitely more limber. But now you can definitely see his age. We'll get deeper into that. But first, we want to talk a little bit to you, Victorya, put you on the spot a bit. So when did you become a wrestling fan?
Probably around 99 or 2000 when the first PlayStation came out. I actually got into wrestling because my first game on PlayStation was WWF SmackDown, the very first one. And from then, that's when I got into watching SmackDown every Thursday night when it used to be on Thursdays.
Yeah. That's so funny because it's rare that you think of somebody getting into wrestling through other avenues, but it happens. So getting into it from video games, or like a lot of women I know recently get into it from watching the reality shows. Which is crazy to me because you would think, oh, the fans are going to go watch the reality shows, but sometimes it's reality show fans are now finding this other thing. And it's happening with comedy too. People are going to comedy shows. They're being entertained by people like Dolph Ziggler, Dolph Ziggler's brother, Ryan Neem. That's not his name, but it's what I like to call him. And then they're getting into wrestling through that. So who's your favorite wrestler?
I have a lot of different favorites, but my favorites probably Undertaker, Kane, The Rock, Trish Stratus, Tajiri, Lita. You know, the Attitude Era was just my favorite time of wrestling. That's when I got into it.
Right, definitely. You're the first person to say Tajiri on this show.
Oh, really?
Do you like all the spit? Is that what drew you?
I like all the crazy stuff he does, all the flips, all the handstands that he does. He can pretty much kip up from anything.
It's true. We're going to talk about kip ups more, remind me.
Kip ups?
Because they're the devil. So, what made you want to become a wrestler? Like, when did you tell me about that journey?
I've always wanted to be a wrestler, but I was always embarrassed to give it a shot or tell anyone. I was just afraid that people were just going to make fun of me for it. And it wasn't until like earlier this year I actually got nominated to compete in Muscle and Fitness Hers magazine. And I thought, like, all these people are nominating for me. They look at me as like a fitness person, so I thought, well, if they see me as a strong person, then why don't I just give wrestling a try?
Right, makes sense. How did you find out about Santino's?
Santino's, I was just looking up wrestling schools in LA, and Santino was the first one that popped up.
It is. They have really good SEO.
They
have great SEO. Shout out to Mongo Santino. He's the one working with the websites.
I was
and
actually stalking the whole Instagram page for like a whole year before I joined.
Similar thing happened to me, except we got the flyer in the card. So.
Yeah.
When I first looked it up, Santino's was the first thing to show up, but then when we went to the first show, the card was on top of the car.
It was like fate.
It was very fateful. Fate's Day night. What has been your biggest challenge so far, or what's been the hardest part about training?
The hardest part is when you do get an injury and coming back and doing the same move you got the injury from, and you're just trying to break through that mental block of not like stopping yourself and just pushing yourself through.
Right.
That's probably the hardest part for me.
Have you been able to do it yet?
Ish. Sort of.
We'll get back to
I believe in you.
Well, we're resumed back to training in January.
I think people underestimate the mental toughness that comes with this kind of stuff, and most, I actually at my New Day gig, someone was talking about how they just got into wrestling, and I was like, yeah, people don't understand like how crazy it is. We were just having this big discussion at lunch with someone who never really watched it, but had a friend who she was on Tough Enough, like one of the early seasons of Tough Enough, and then she transitioned to being I think an announcer or a ring announcer. Anyway, but it was just like it got in this like kind of cool discussion about like people who didn't really know it and talking about all the aspects.
You have to be physically strong and mentally strong for wrestling.
And honestly, like that's the reason why I switched over to managing. It was the mental toughness that I needed. I reached my edge. I reached the wall. It was like, no more. Thank you. Thank you. I have had enough. No, I will not flip over that for you. No. It's only a foot off the ground. No, I said.
Still terrifying as
hell. So here I am doing manager work, but I love it. And it really is, whenever I watch, this is something people probably don't think about, but let's say you go and you take a clothesline and it really knocks you, like hits you so hard, you flip inside out, as the announcers like to say. When that next clothesline comes for you, you cannot flinch. You can't say, no, I've changed my mind.
No, sir.
I would not. I've done it, but only in practice and with my boyfriend because he won't break up with me for it. But like, you have to sit there and be like, that shit almost broke my teeth, or sometimes that just broke my tooth, and I have to go and take it one more time. That's kind of the insanity that you have to be a wrestler. So you've done some other really interesting things, such as car show modeling and singing in a death metal band.
Yeah.
What drew you to death metal?
I got into death metal in high school. My friend, she gave me my first metal church album, and ever since then I just got hooked. I just felt like I belonged in the metal scene. I was a cool kid in the metal scene, but in high school, around other students, I was just the Asian girl, So I felt like I belonged.
That's really cool. So, since music is so important to you,
Mhm.
do you know like what song, if you could have any song you'd want as your entrance music when you do debut?
When I first started wrestling, I thought like, I want to be like Undertaker, so I want that song by Necrophobic, The Awakening. And then I realized, that's a little too metal.
It's a little too metal.
It's
Too
gonna
hard.
Scare everyone. So I was like, I'm gonna go a little more glam metal that kind of sounds like the Attitude Era. So I thought of Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I'll be singing, like if you
Yeah.
in the indie scene come out there, I'll be like, pause! I'll be in the crowd just singing that.
You should come out with sugar packets. And
I was thinking, I gotta come out with something like. But I just thought like that song sounds really good, and also it reminds me of the Attitude Era, and I love it.
Definitely, I think that's a great choice.
What's your favorite entrance music, like of the people kind of current, or all time, even all time?
I'd say Undertaker, like hands down. Like it's just watching him, you just get the chills. Just right when the lights turn off and you hear the beginning of the music, it's just you just can't explain that feeling.
Yeah, I kind of feel like his is definitely one of the best entrances of all time.
Of all time.
Of all times.
I've been enjoying lately. I love when memes circle back around, and one of the memes that has come back around is anything with the Stone Cold Steve Austin glass break.
Yes.
And then something happens. So the latest one I saw is this little kid, and he's hitting his baseball or something into the garage, and it slams right into something made of glass in the garage, and you hear and then the kid turns around, it's like, oh no, you summoned Stone Cold Steve Austin. I love stupid shit. Alright, speaking of stupid shit, let's talk about 2017.
Excellent trend.
That's my favorite segue I've ever done.
That's a beautiful transition. It's beautiful.
So, we'll start off with the Royal Rumble.
Yes.
I got to be there actually in person. For anyone who missed that episode where I talked about it, I got box seats, so it was free food, free hot dogs and biscuits and alcohol and normal drinks if you don't like alcohol, and cookies.
Okay.
The bad part was I was really high up. The good part was I had a table. If you've ever sat there balancing your nachos and your drink and trying to like not bump into people and also not being able to see because somebody in front of you is higher, you can appreciate the benefits of being high up on the table. But everyone was tiny little specks. So I was mostly watching the big jumbo screen. So it was like being at a friend's house eating food, which I was fine with. Randy Orton won that one.
Boo.
I didn't mind it so much at the time.
No, I knew it was coming.
I didn't.
Yeah.
That was my problem. I should have, because that's always what happens.
I didn't see it coming either.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to win, and then when he did, it was basically when it got down to the final three was it was him, Roman, and Bray. No,
I actually cannot remember now that you're saying
maybe
that.
not Bray. It was Roman, Randy, and then someone else, and then I think it was Bray because that's when they were doing that kind of weird combo of them together. And so, when it got there's other people that I thought were gonna win, and then they got out, and I was like, oh no, please not this, anything but this. And then Randy won, and then it was.
Let's see if they have the order. Let's see.
They have them coming in, but they don't. So it would have been.
I remember Ty lasted kind of a long time.
Jericho lasted a really long time.
So it was Roman Reigns, Undertaker. Bray. Was it Goldberg?
No, it was Bray. Goldberg was in there.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But that was that Goldberg, Brock, and Taker all came out one after another.
Undertaker did his normal thing though, where he just appeared.
Yes. Yeah, he just appeared in the middle.
Which was when you mentioned you get chills, even there, being able to see and sort of having seen it enough time that you should know, the lights are gonna go out and he's gonna pop up. You still don't expect it because you're like, oh, look at all that cool ass light, and then oh shit. It's really cool. And then someone was like, do you think he's just been under there with an iPad this whole time? just hanging out under the ring. The other weird thing about the Royal Rumble was they had, the entrance was really long.
Yeah.
And so they had little, buggies.
Yeah, for the big dudes. They would just,
drive them. And so the image of big-ass Big E just, standing there just really quickly, it was uncontrollable.
uncontrollable laughter in the crowd every time it would happen because you're just like, what is that? Why did you think
Why would
this
you put
be
that?
okay?
Why'd you set this up like this?
I'm sure, like, all I can think is maybe the camera for people watching cut away, and so
Oh
people
yeah,
did.
okay,
Good.
You saw them when they first came out, and then you saw them that last part of
Okay.
the thing. So
Because
you didn't really see them like go.
it was so funny and ridiculous. just imagine your
doing
favorite
segues.
wrestlers on a Segway.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like.
So Randy Orton won, and I was like, no, Randy Orton's gonna get a push, and it's gonna be garbage like it always is, and I'm just not the biggest Randy Orton fan. He's not like the worst or anything, but I feel like his storyline's gone way too long, and it's extremely repetitive, and he like almost killed the Singh brothers like 6 different times.
Yeah. They have almost died. I guess my problem with Randy is I don't feel that he tells enough of a story for what I like to watch in wrestling.
And there are times where you can tell he just like does not want to sell something.
Yeah.
There's some dudes where he's like, yes, I will sell this thing, and there are other times he's like, here's the thing. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm oh, that hurts. Oh, I'm like, come on, Randy.
Like when
Get it
Sami
together.
Zayn hit him with the chair, it looked like he had told Sami backstage, if you fucking blast me with this chair, I'll end your life. And so Sami was like, careful. Careful now.
Nope.
TPT tap. So yeah, but I forgot that that's what they do at Royal Rumbles, if the winner goes on to have their year.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was more like, because I'm all discombobulated and whatnot, I watched it, I was like, oh good, they've given him something. Now and
Nope.
I was wrong.
Nope.
Bray Wyatt became WWE champion for a little bit. That's something else that happened in 2017.
white hot minute.
I think it was
Solid.
5 days. Bray Wyatt seems like he'd be kind of your type since he's all creepy and Undertaker. What do you feel about Bray Wyatt?
I like him as a wrestler. I think he's great. I think he's good with his promos, and he has a really good gimmick going on. I just feel like they just keep taking titles away from everybody, though.
Yeah.
Except for Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. The one person who does not need a title
Just
at all.
in
They're probably
perpetuity.
scared of him. Like, if you try to take the title away from Brock Lesnar, imagine him just staring at you really hard.
I feel
how
like
would you
if you-
react to that.
I feel like if you had some ribs and some sweet tea, you'd be able to like distract him enough from being angry. Be like, oh listen, okay, I know I took this, but hey, you see these ribs? They're succulent. They're falling right off the bone.
You make me hungry. I haven't had dinner yet.
Oh, sorry. These delicious ass ribs.
Delicious ass ribs. I was, and a lot of people were so happy because, like you said, he's a really good worker. He's got great promos.
Yeah.
And they have just sabotaged him every which way.
They really have. I mean, they had something going with him, like having Bray and then Finn Balor, like the demon thing, like that was actually interesting, but they didn't really.
They didn't
do
it.
anything. Yeah.
Again, the problem with Bray is always the same thing. They don't let him win, so no one has a reason to be afraid of him.
They were letting him beat the crap out of Finn though for a while, but I almost feel like it's because they are treating Finn worse than Bray right now.
They never let Bray be scary.
Yes.
And Bray should have beaten Finn and then lost to the Demon King.
Yes.
That's what
100%.
they should have set it up as.
Yes.
But they did it. They had him lose to Finn and they had him lose to the Demon King. So then I was like, well, what are we afraid of Bray for? He doesn't even have a cult anymore.
Yeah. Now they're the Bludgeon Brothers,
I
which
think
is...
he was more scarier when he had all his brothers with
Yeah,
him. They were
100%.
really intimidating.
Yeah.
And I loved their entrance too.
Yeah, it was really good.
I loved it, yeah.
I think, like, what I was hoping that they were going to ramp up to was sort of like the Demon Kingdom versus the Wyatt family. Like, have it be like a legit, like, 4-on-4 kind of situation or 3-on-3 situation. And
because because they had Gallows and Anderson were originally in the Bullet Club with Finn Balor. Like, they're another team who I felt was being done a disservice because again they should have been big scary monsters and yet they were constantly losing.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, and I think like you could have just for a brief like a month had it so that the Demon King called down other demons or whatever to take form in them, and you could have just gave them some face. Yeah, like you could have like done a thing just for WrestleMania and had some real creepy, cool like supernatural versus supernatural
demon
thing.
in you. Oh,
yeah,
that would
right.
have been fun.
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping they were gonna do, and they just never did it.
Yeah, but it was cool that they gave it to Bray for a little bit. It let people who loved him feel like, it was a surprise twist to the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view.
And there's still some time because they are doing Woken Matt Hardy, who's like this. If no one's seen
the phrase
Woken, Woken, it's Woken Matt Hardy because he used to be broken and now he's woken. Yeah. So that's the thing.
If you don't have any black friends, you're not allowed to say woken. How about that rule? How about that rule, Matt Hardy? You show me your black friends and I'll leave you alone.
He's got at least one.
No, he doesn't. He does. I've seen a lot of his videos.
But now, like, it's this weird, like, reincarnated thing that he's doing. So that's still a thing that can happen. You got Aleister Black over in NXT that you could pop up to do this weird
Stealing
stuff.
Tyler Bateman's spot. Lowlight, Goldberg became Universal Champion, and then Brock became Universal Champion.
I was okay with Goldberg doing it, not okay with Brock.
I wasn't okay with either. They didn't need that match to be a championship match for anyone to give a fuck about it.
No, they didn't. But I like Goldberg in general, and I knew, like, with Goldberg, I knew when he became champion, I knew that wasn't going to be a thing that lasted anyways, because it's like, you know, it's been a while, whatever. He wasn't going to be wrestling for more than, like, a month story, like, maybe 2 months story time, because I just don't think he wanted to do it. I think he just wanted to come back and have a nice little stretch. It was like when The Rock came back.
Make a bunch of money.
Yeah, when The Rock came back, he's talked a lot, and then he did, like, 4 matches over the course of, like, 4 months or something like that. So, like, that, I figured that was
also a lot richer than Goldberg.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the story they were saying is that Brock was like, hey, Goldie, we can make a lot of money if we make this go longer than just one match. Like, that was kind of supposedly what happened.
And they still could have made that interesting and done that without the freaking title.
Yes.
Because what happened, though, is that Brock's had the freaking, like, when back in my time still at Loot Crate, what was hilarious was we have these championship belt pins, right?
Yes.
And so when we put the Universal Championship thing, one of the subscribers on Twitter was like, "There's a Universal Championship belt. Who has it?" Like, joking, because it's like, oh, you literally have not seen it in 3 months.
Yeah, it's
Where
never on
is
TV. That motherfucker.
No one talks about it like no one talks about it as a thing they want to get, except for like once every 3 or 4 months when Brock is like, okay, I'm gonna come and show up for.
Hey, y'all want to see Paul Heyman?
Yeah. Hey, you want to hear him talk from me because I'm no good on the mic?
Yes.
But I look real scary with my weird ass.
That was a low light for me because I do hate his fucking tattoo. I hate it. I hate that little dagger. It's an ugly dagger. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry. You know what? But I will say I saw this thing on ESPN with Brock being real funny, and I'm sure he's a great dude. I just as a storyline thing, it's very frustrating because it's like the same shit over and over and over.
It's like the attitude era happened. Yeah, we get Brock scary. Bring him back, have him fuck everybody up, and then never make the title about. What do you think about the whole Brock and Goldberg and whatnot?
I loved it.
God damn it.
I thought it was great. I have no complaints about it.
So you like Brock being a champion who's never on TV?
Yeah,
that's fine.
I'm a Brock Lesnar fan.
Oh.
So. I'm a Goldberg fan too.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about the AJ Styles match? Did you see that one with Brock and AJ Styles?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you'll probably love it.
Yeah, it was actually not. It was half of it was real not great for me, but the back half of it was real strong.
It was fine for a Brock match for me, but I did see some times where AJ was taking not good things for Brock, not the way they were supposed to go.
I kind of fell off with watching it because like with training they tell us to not keep up with the recent wrestling shows.
Yep. And it's also just hard, like even if you wanted to keep up, you're at wrestling almost every day of the week now.
Yeah.
So like you would have to catch up at other times if you've got school or work.
And that's a lot of content every week. It's like 10 hours.
Yeah, watch the highlights.
Yeah, exactly.
On YouTube real quick.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing. Like if you were trying to watch like every thing, that's at least 10 new hours of wrestling every week. It's hard. It's cray.
But somebody who has time, it must be awesome.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, oh, it's always wrestling.
I keep up with as much as I can, but man.
I got another low light for you guys. And we talked about it briefly, and it was Roman Reigns retiring The Undertaker. Now, since you've already surprised us once, how did you feel about this?
I was pretty upset. Because I felt like if it's going to be Undertaker's last match, like, let him win. Like, why did he have to lose to, like, let it be? I don't know.
I feel like that started when Stupid Brock broke the streak. And that, to me, was the biggest problem with me, with him coming back. Was like, you're going to have him come. He's only going to wrestle 3 times a year. He's going to win every year. And then he's going to, of all people, he's going to be the one that breaks the streak. It couldn't have been Jericho. It couldn't have been, like literally anybody else. Almost anybody else, you know what I mean? Like,
but with that streak,
Shawn Michaels.
Bray Wyatt.
That wasn't planned.
Oh.
It wasn't. Undertaker was supposed to win when he was against Brock Lesnar, but the thing was, I think he got a concussion in the match, and he just told Brock just end it.
Oh, interesting. I never knew that.
That was not a thing I knew. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better inside that it was a thing that went wrong, as opposed to that was the plan the whole time. Because that didn't make kind of any sense to me. Like, of all people, like if you're gonna, you should have gave it to Braun if it was gonna be anybody. It's like that passing of the monster torch. You know what I mean? I didn't like hate it. Like the match was fine. I think the problem is that they've been handling Roman's whole situation kind of wrong for the most part.
And even this feud, if they knew they were going to retire the Undertaker, why not build it up? And instead it was just, I am in charge of everything, so I have decided that Undertaker, who has not been here and is not really involved, is a threat to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to beat him up.
Yeah, like that was
your storyline. Like, you could have made it like Undertaker kidnapped Roman Reigns' girlfriend or some shit. Like, we could have done something.
Yeah, like you could have kidnapped Dean or something.
You took my woman. Wait, what? I mean, my deed.
My deed.
Or, Roman Reigns, like, ran into Undertaker and lost something important.
There's a bunch of different ways you could have
something could have
Or
happened.
you could have had the Undertaker randomly popping up and making him lose matches for like 2 months.
Right.
Interfering with
us. And then he wouldn't even have a wrestle any of that time. He'd just randomly be lurking around. Kind of like they did that with Kane when he came back initially. It was just him like kind of lurking and like popping up in the middle, which is still great. Just popping up in the middle of a ring during a match. It's still hilarious to me.
Yes.
It's my favorite.
It's great.
And how one thing he tries to pull them in, like the abject fear that one of my favorite sells is like Shawn Michaels and like various other people, like when Kane tries to pull them under thing and they're like and like panicking, like it's just
it's a good
it's good. It's good.
I like
it's
it.
Good
So let's get back to some happy things.
Yes, happy thoughts.
WrestleMania, New Day came out. They were just like Final Fantasy. And they were like, big news. You're all like, oh shit, New Day's about to join the tag team. Nope. The Hardy Boys came back.
That was
amazing.
Yeah, I seeing the crowd pop to that was like one of my favorite things. I was like, everyone's so happy.
Crazy.
I was in a house with another big fan, and we we're just grabbing each other. We popped. We were like standing. We were like, whoa! So just like knowing that wrestling still has the ability to surprise us and to make us react so viscerally, like that was really
And
cool.
it was particularly fun that it was at this WrestleMania, which had this like 3-mile long entrance ramp. Just seeing them
yes. That just reminded me of the snake. That entrance ramp. It looked like it was made in 1992.
The longer it has to go, the worse it looks.
Like I get what they were trying to do with that snake, but it looked like a gigantic sperm.
It did. It also gonna impregnate the ring now.
We're gonna have 3 more rings when this is done.
Yay, baby rings. Yeah, that was. Thank you for reminding me of the snake. But yes, that was
a snake.
That was really cool. Look, I got another low light next. I'm just gonna move it because we got real low for a bit.
Okay.
Another highlight instead. Shinsuke Nakamura made his debut to SmackDown, I believe.
Yeah,
Not
SmackDown.
crazy.
Yeah, it warmed my heart to hear the audience pop that hard.
Again, another entrance that gives chills. His debut was really good.
Okay.
The way people were screaming for him. Have you
Yeah.
ever heard anyone scream for him like that? Like,
No.
or for anybody else?
Not really.
I was nervous that he wasn't going to have a big reception because there are plenty of people who only watch NXT or who only watch Raw. So knowing that there was that much of a crossover and people were excited for someone also who has a not super easy to understand gimmick.
No,
I'm just fucking Japanese as shit. Like that's his gimmick.
Basically.
He reminds me of like Michael Jackson / Captain Jack Sparrow mix, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, that's why they call him the artist.
Because they're like, we don't know how to sell this, you know?
Right.
But
How
it's
do
like
we-
the artist, and which is great to me because it's like his art is just kneeing people in the face. Just that's his
Here's
art.
a Kinshasa, yo.
Yeah. Kinshasa. They love saying
They
Kinshasa.
do.
Oh my god, it's their favorite thing.
What's
in
his
the
name
world.
said it wrong the other day though?
Corey?
Yeah, probably. No, I don't
No.
think it was Corey.
Michael?
I think it was it was the one who face fucked that girl or wanted to. Tom. He said like, what did he say? Like Kinshasa. He said it wrong. I can't remember how.
Did he get clowned?
And I was like, what? Did y'all hear that? But then it was like the last one of the match. It was fine. My only wish for Shinsuke is I would love to see him with a manager, like his own version of a Paul Heyman who could take him to the next level.
Yeah.
Because he cannot speak that well.
Well, and it's
He
because
probably can't in Japanese.
well, yeah, and I think it's also interesting because he always has the mouth guard too. So even when he does go to talk, he has the mouth guard in his mouth.
I feel like he doesn't, even if he were to not have a manager, I feel like he doesn't need to talk.
No.
He doesn't, but they make him.
Yeah.
They make him talk way more than I would ever make Shinsuke talk. His ass would just be showing up if I was
Yeah,
Russian. Like, oh, Shinsuke's
Or
here,
you give
he's
him
gonna kick your ass.
or you give him a not necessarily a tag team partner, but like
A stable
dude.
mate or
Yeah,
something,
like a stable mate.
friend.
yeah, like if you have like a mini stable around Shinsuke, then that could work too. That's not fucking Randy Orton. I don't know.
Right, this Randy
the
thing
weirdest-
seems out of nowhere for me. I don't know if I just missed a lot
It's-
of episodes.
It's more out of nowhere than his average RKO.
Every time they say it, I'm like,
No.
no, we saw it. We all saw that RKO was
I
coming.
think like 2 or 3 weeks ago is actually genuinely one
Out
that
of
was
nowhere.
out of
It
nowhere.
was when he did it to Kevin Owens.
Yeah, when Kevin was
And
just
I-
talking, and all of a sudden he was there, and I was like, wait, literally out of nowhere.
I turned to Tyler and I was like, that one was out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, it was important.
Speaking of memes, one of my favorite things is GIFs where people are falling and someone puts Randy doing an RKO into it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like,
that's great.
got it.
Got
Anyways.
it.
From everything.
Yeah, it's like, through
Out
table.
the window.
Yeah. On cats. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, this is the best.
Oh my god, can someone send me a cat one? I'd really like that. Another low light for me, but apparently not a low light for Tamara, and we'll see how Victoria feels about it. Jinder Mahal became WWE champion. Victoria, I'm gonna ask you first. How did you feel about this?
Compared to how I'm just judging him on how physically fit he is now, like compared to how he was a few years ago. I think like he worked extremely hard to be in shape and for this moment, and I thought he deserved it. I know a lot of people don't feel the same way, but
I mean,
he's been around for a while.
Yes.
yeah, I agree. He's been
And
definitely
he's really cut too,
He-
so
yeah.
you know he's putting in work.
putting in that work.
Putting in something.
Well, listen. That, but you also need work on top of that. It
It's
just
true,
doesn't. It's
it's
not
true.
some just magic juice.
Yeah.
If that's what is happening allegedly. Okay, so this what I like. I like. Okay, so the low light of it to me was because he was kind of always earmarked that he was going to be a villain. Like it wasn't even if he wasn't like a straight up villain at the start, he was going to be like full heel pretty soon. And the thing that bothered me about that was that it became, hey, look at this different brown guy. Let's boo everything that he's doing, because he had like this great, like beautiful, like celebration when he got it, and it was like this beautiful dancers. And people, people are like,
music.
boo.
Yeah.
Like people were really conflicted because it was like, and so they're like, because we know we're supposed to boo.
This is my really big problem with it, and we've talked about it more in depth.
Yeah.
No one who is actually racist believes they're racist. They don't want to believe that they're racist. So he literally in some promos said, you Americans, you're so xenophobic, you don't like me because I'm from India, and you don't like me because of this. And then he had the Bhangra dancers, and he had the beautiful carpet. And what it did is I think it really confused people, because people were watching, they're like, this is nice, I like it. White people love them some Indian stuff, by the way. Don't get me started. Curry, yoga, everything in bindis. White people love Indian shit. So telling them specifically, hey, you're supposed to hate me because I'm Indian, I think it confused the audience, and they didn't really know how to react to him.
Yeah, and I think most people understood that he'd been working for a long ass time, and he's one of those moments where someone you never think is gonna get a title gets a title. So even if you don't like him, you like the fact that he got the title.
I still didn't.
And it's fine that you didn't. I appreciate it, but I think that from a like representational angle, that's cool. And
I think part of why, so I was thinking about it. I
Yeah.
think part of why they did it this way is I'm wondering if in India he was packaged differently.
probably
Like, you know, you can edit a show. You watch a show, you can take it, you can edit it. It's entirely possible that the celebrations and all those good things were being shown in a way that made Jinder look like he was, you know, really positive and stuff.
And
for
I would
India.
also argue that by him starting out and saying, hey, if you're booing me, it's because you're afraid of different things, is a thing that will actually translate well to other people of color.
Potentially.
Potentially. I mean, it could go a little bit wrong, but it's just like a really confusing thing, and I think that like, and you know what? The Singh brothers came out in some beautiful,
those lovely shirts, looking crisp all the time,
with these like nice saturated like jewel tones. Beautiful. I was about it.
And I like Jinder's suits too. I've never said I didn't like his suits, and I like his turban. When he's wearing a turban and a suit, I'm like, Jinder, you could maybe. And then he takes off his hat, and I'm like, could not get it. If Jinder wanted it. I'm probably too fat for Jinder. He's real serious about his meal prep. Anyway, the point is, I didn't like Jinder as a champion because I felt that in the ring he lacked anything that made somebody a champion. He did not have the oomph that I generally see in a champion. He didn't have moves that I thought were interesting. To me, he wrestled like somebody who didn't have anything. And even his finish that he eventually had, he didn't have it at first either, was like what's it called? Yeah, I'm just gonna forget the name. Yep, snake cobra clutch.
Yes.
Is basically like a cobra clutch and then a slam down. It might have its own name, but it's sort of a modified cobra clutch thing. And it didn't look cool. It didn't look fancy. And I don't know if it's the way people sold it.
The cobra clutch on yourself to remember.
I was like, what is the name? Cobra clutch. Yeah, I'm like, I'm clutching. I'm a snake hold. Snake grab?
Yeah.
Yes, I had to.
I almost wonder if they didn't know that they were going to push him because he feels like they were not prepared almost for it. Yeah. I think they just kind of made a choice.
Well, and part of the reason everyone said was because they were expanding in India. Now, I had heard a rumor, but when looking into this rumor, I was unable to verify it, but everyone was saying this rumor. And what they were saying is the reason it was taken back from him was because sales in India went down during his reign. I was unable to find any information that confirmed that. There was just a YouTube video of somebody saying it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But let me tell you why it's a possible thing.
Okay.
They had all these tours planned in India, and last minute they consolidated them into one show and they left India. So instead of multiple days in India, they condensed it down to one show in India, and then they dipped the fuck out, and then immediately Jinder lost the title.
Right. That, to a degree, makes sense, but I also feel like they were going to take it from him eventually anyway. And that seemed about when, like, he had not quite a year going, right? So it was like 8 months. So, and AJ was getting, like, the hard push. So I felt like that was about the time that they were really prepared to give it to him. Anyways, it might even went longer than what they were planning. I do think that things are very tied to sales. I think they might have overestimated the appeal in India, particularly because they only have one active Indian wrestler. Not that people are interested in other people, but if they were focusing on him as the focal point.
Or hey, let's look at logic. If wrestling is booming in India without an Indian champion, then clearly they don't need an Indian champion to like wrestling, right?
Yeah, right. There's a lot of things there. I just I don't think it's the worst thing that could have possibly happened. I'm more up on Jinder as champion than I am as Brock as champion. So at least he was defending the title and appeared every week.
Okay, that's fair. I will say I also would prefer Jinder having it to Brock having a title if we're doing that comparison.
Okay.
But I still hated Jinder as a champion. Money in the Bank, first ever women's Money in the Bank. First ever women's ladder match happened as well.
And it was the first ever cage was last year, right?
First ever cage was last year, I think. Yeah, first ever Hell in a Cell.
Hell in a Cell, yes.
And then this year they're doing the first ever women's Royal, or they've announced that the first ever women's Royal Rumble is coming up. So it's all very exciting stuff. Carmella was the first one to win because a man climbed a ladder and got it for her. Ellsworth. I did love that they told that story to be controversial, though. They specifically on Twitter were like,
having all the women say how unfair it was that a first person to ever touch it was actually a man, not even a woman, and blah blah blah. They really played that up. But
and then
I
they
hate
turned
Carmelo.
him into a dog.
They did, and then they kicked his ass to the curb. But hey, Ellsworth got his 15 fucking minutes of fame, better than any of us could have ever hoped for. He got to live the dream. I don't think he, you know, I'm sure he doesn't regret it.
Yeah, I mean, I could write an essay about sort of gender representation and things like that, and what it means for Ellsworth to be kind of the only dude taking female superstar finishers.
Except when a man wears a wig.
Yes, except
Did you
again.
ever notice that?
when Tyler Breeze is dressed in drag.
As a woman, he is allowed to be hit by a woman.
Yeah. So it's a very, very specific kind of thing, but even that could go in the essay. It'd be a very interesting topic.
That would be I'd read that essay.
And also one of our things we were like, Carmella, alright, but then she was wearing those dope ass.
It's true. Carmella wears these bodysuits that are like kind of basketball-esque.
Yeah, they're dope.
They are so good. I want one right now. I want it on my body. I'm not even in the right shape for it. I don't care. Baron Corbin won the Money in the Bank, cashed it in, and lost. Which is a highlight for me.
It's also a highlight for me. That was hilarious.
Beautiful. Do you have any thoughts on Baron Corbin?
I just think he's just one of those wrestlers that is unfortunately slept on. Yeah.
I think he looks like a wizard.
And he's also another wrestler that's been around for a while that just hasn't gotten his opportunity yet.
An apocalyptic wolf wizard?
Well, I think that's what Tyler calls him. Fire wolf wizard. Something like that.
It's not that I don't like Baron Corbin. I dislike his gimmick immensely.
Yeah, I feel like he hasn't found his gimmick yet.
It's not a good gimmick.
Yeah. I wish he would. I would kind of wish he would embrace, like, if he was going to do the Outlander, you know, Fallout, New Vegas, Apocalypse thing, I wish he'd go all in on it.
Yeah.
You know, like more into it. Maybe that could be interesting. Especially with the world and the state it's in right now, it's probably something that, you know.
They did fix his opening, though.
They
like
did.
his entrance is much better.
I do prefer his entrance now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna zoom through a few things, and then I'll talk about something that I think we have more to say on. So real quick, Hell in a Cell, Shane jumped off again, Sammy turned heel. That was something interesting to happen. Any quick thoughts on that? I was pretty surprised to see Sammy turn heel.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. I didn't expect that at all.
Definitely. Asuka debuted on Raw. We were all very happy about that because she's amazing.
She is. Calling it that she's winning the Royal Rumble.
Right. And speaking of that, Paige came back and she brought some friends, and we had Ruby Riott come up and bring a few friends as well. And quite unfortunately, it looks like the exact same storyline in both cases because they all have their goth chick and they all have their pretty blonde chick and then they all have their tough chick, and it's really like, what's up guys, we see what you're doing.
We did this so fast we could not have been bothered to write 2 different storylines.
And I mentioned this on AfterBuzz, and I want to mention it here real quick. You don't just make Avengers. You make Iron Man, and then you make Thor, and then you make Captain America, and then you make Avengers, or whatever order. And I really hate that they couldn't give us time to get to know each of the ladies. Like, especially, okay, we technically know Paige, right? So let's talk about the SmackDown ladies. Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan, and what was this? Liv? Is that what Liv? Liv Morgan. Yes. I can't tell Liv Morgan and the other one apart. Sorry, Mandy Rose. Anyway, we don't know them. Even from NXT, they were not at NXT that long. They weren't like there as long as Shinsuke or Asuka, for example. So wouldn't it make more sense to let us get to know each of these ladies, then team them up, then have them destroy everything? But instead, y'all greedy. You want to put all the women on at the same time so you can say that all the women have something to do instead of giving us more than one women's match an episode. And so here the fuck we are, and I hate that shit.
Yeah, and it's like, why them and not like Ember or Peyton or like...
I could see Ember and Peyton because I think that they want to use them to build the new NXT like thing.
Sure, and I get that. It just was it was an interesting thing because theoretically, if you were going to do that, then you should have let like Ruby and Liv and Mandy bump it. Like it should have been a bump up instead of just like, because it makes it feel like half of it, like some of them are cannon fodder. You know what I mean? It's like Ruby's gonna talk and the other two are gonna get destroyed.
They let Sarah Logan talk a little bit, and it was probably one of the biggest mistakes of their life. It was not good. Another highlight for me, Usos and New Day had a feud when New Day came back over to SmackDown, and I thought it was really well done, and they put on some of the best tag team matches in years.
Agreed.
Low Light, Emma was released.
Yeah, that sucked. I like that.
We don't know why. They kept, they were able to give Emma a chance trending. Emma had some matches. Emma's generally solid in the ring. And they just got rid of her right after she was fed to Asuka, and I don't get it. And then Lio Rush may have ruined his career by doing what he thought was a funny tweet about it that got him a lot of backstage heat, and he's still experiencing heat from that, where he tweeted, "See, this is why you don't mess with Nia Jax." I get what he was doing. It was supposed to be a joke, but a lot of workers and people were very insulted because Emma is now losing her job.
Yeah.
That's not a thing to joke about. So I can see both sides. Let's see. I just want to make sure we don't have any other ones that we want to spend a lot of time on before we move on. So the Mae Young Classic. Let's spend a little time on that.
Mae Young Classic.
We were really excited to see this. I think it was a great time. A lot of women are more interested in wrestling who weren't before because of Glow. And all of us who were already interested in wrestling, now that we had the women's revolution, and it's just been getting better and better and better. So it was a great time to have the Mae Young Classic. A lot of people who follow the indie wrestlers got to see some of our favorite people on there. It was weird how they did the release. That would be a thing that I thought was strange. Like, they released, I don't know if you saw, like when they did it live, they released like a few episodes and then waited 2 weeks and released the next one or some weird shit like that. And then the finale was weeks later.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like every week, and then it was like 3 weeks in between the last episode and the finale. The live, like, final match or something like weird like that. It was weird.
They didn't do it that way for the Cruiserweight Classics, I checked. Yeah.
So it was kind of weirdly paced. And some of the matches where they were placed and who they had, proceed to the next rounds felt a little off, because there were some people who felt like they should have been a little more cannon fodder. No offense, but like, they should have been first round showcases, ended up making it to a second round when people who had better show,
Right. Did you see any of the Mae Young Classic?
I only watched a few matches on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing.
I really enjoyed little bits of it. There were plenty of great moments. It was cool to see women that I hadn't heard of. And it was cool to see things that we don't normally get to see. Like, what was her name? Piper's match with Toni Storm, and they had a little bridge off, and they had a very gentleman's style wrestling match. A lot of catch can, and it's so cool to see that, because we don't really normally get to see that with women wrestlers. So I enjoyed that we got to see a style of wrestling that those of us that watch indie wrestling get to see women do. But people who don't normally watch that, who are just WWE, they got to see a little more about what women can do in the ring. There were some women who I was like, why are they here when so many other more deserving indie wrestlers could have been here? And one of the answers was they were not letting women who'd ever done anything such as Suicide Girls type stuff be in there. So now, knowing the crossover between nerd girls, wrestling, and not voyeurism, like exhibitionism, it seems like probably a lot of women indie wrestlers have done something that could be considered a little like, I show my titties a little bit. May have potentially hurt a lot of people. Also, WWE has very strict health things. Like, there's someone I knew who I'm like, why isn't he in the WWE? And it's his cardio. He's got a little bit of asthma. They were like, no, we can't work with you like this. So some women have health problems that that aren't really a big deal, don't really affect them, but the WWE is like, nope. So there were plenty of interesting reasons. Once I did a little digging as to why certain women were not in the Mae Young Classic, and really sad, just sad to hear. Any other thoughts on Mae Young Classic?
Do it again.
Yes.
One more. Otra vez.
Come on. More women. They also announced the mixed tag match that's going to happen. I don't know if it's happened yet, or it's on Facebook, so I don't really give a about watching it, but I do want to know what happens because I don't watch things on Facebook.
So is this a mixed tag?
It's a real mixed tag, supposedly.
So, like, if the woman tags in then she's just in, and then they're not gonna.
That's what I've heard.
Okay.
And part of the reason why they're doing it on Facebook is because of that. Because they can't. This is the weirdest shit ever. You can literally show movies and things where women are getting beat up by men or like killed by men, and that's okay. But like the same thing isn't given for wrestling. You can't show a woman wrestling a man anymore on television because of the FCC.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, CWF Hollywood did a whole storyline with Kevin Condron and Ruby Reyes, where they were gonna fight, and then they got bought by the CW, and then they couldn't air that fight, so they had to fight at a club, and it was not aired.
Oh.
Yeah, and so like the match happened, but no one is ever gonna see it. They've just been like,
yeah. Because like every once in a while they'll let like your Awesome Kongs or like before they would let them be one of the Royal Rumble entrants, and they'd be able to eliminate like 2 or 3
back in the
dudes
day,
and then
it
get out.
was not, a thing. We watched, what's her name, get sent through tables by the Dudley Boys and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, even though we didn't grow up with strong women wrestlers, they were few and far between, we still got to see women getting the shit beat out of them all the time. So it's extra weird, it's strange, especially because this is performance.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing. If you put Charlotte in the ring with a small, skinny wrestler, I'm not gonna think that Charlotte can't win that match.
I mean, there's probably like a quarter of the dudes on SmackDown that I'm pretty sure she can. I'm pretty sure she can beat Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Like straight up. Like I'm pretty sure. Like there's a couple of dudes where I'm like, even if they seem like, oh, I'm gonna know, but like they're like, but no, but like Charlotte. Have you seen Charlotte?
Right.
Like have you?
And this is the thing, like people don't understand with wrestling, with any kind of martial arts. They're willing to look at a tiny guy and a big guy and say, oh, well, the tiny guy can use his flying tactics and can bear him down and can be really quick and blah blah blah, so he could win. But they can't do the same thing with women, even when women are the same size as the guys. And I'm like, you clearly know nothing about combat. I mean, it's just straight up, a woman who knows jiu-jitsu can kick your ass. I don't care how big you are. Like, if you don't know jiu-jitsu and she does, you're going down. So the idea that women can't wrestle men is kind of fucking dumb.
It is.
Agreed.
Speaking of that, I actually got a comment on one of my training videos on YouTube. Somebody just said, why are there girls wrestling with guys? This just doesn't make sense. This shouldn't happen.
Did they also comment about Ray being able to use the Force so well, or the Doctor being able to regenerate into a woman and how that's weird?
No, they were just really upset.
Yeah.
It's so strange because first of all, like most women wrestlers that you've ever seen trained with men because there are no all-female schools.
Exactly.
There's no and maybe in Japan there is like Japan's kind of a weird place, but like in America, if you want to learn to wrestle as a woman, you are wrestling men. And you are getting the same bruises. You are expected to lift the same weights. To carry somebody over your body in the same way. And again, look at Charlotte's body. Look at Chyna's body. Like
basically all of them.
Yeah, like they're clearly athletes.
Yeah.
What's it called? The other girl, Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
Squatted 400 pounds while she was at their Florida thing, smiling.
Yeah.
Cheerfully.
That's basically Braun Strowman.
She's strong as hell.
Yeah.
So to tell me women can't wrestle men, it just speaks to pure ignorance, first of all, of fighting in general, and second of all, to what wrestling is.
The other day, Nia Jax had 2 girls over her, and she did a squat before she Samoa dropped them.
Remember that time Alicia Fox was holding Noam Dar, lifted herself onto one leg and did a little wave thing. She was holding him up on her hip. Yeah. And she was able to move around and do that stuff strong AF. Yeah. And she's one of the smallest women.
She is.
So
but she's strong as hell.
Yeah, she's strong. She could probably beat me up. All right, guys. Anything else that happened this year that I didn't mention that you feel like we should talk about?
What about that first women's match in forgot what country?
The Middle East.
Middle East, yes. That was Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks in the Middle East had their first women's wrestling match ever. Yeah. They had to wear different gear to perform. I still liked it. I liked it. And they didn't have to wear
they didn't have to wear anything. No. They're crying girls in the audience because of the enormity of the moment and all that kind of stuff, and it it was really cool. And like literally anytime you bring it up, even on the show, and she's supposed to be in character, Sasha's like this close to crying about it because it's so close. She's so like, this is like her jam. Like this is the stuff that she wrestles for.
It's a big deal. Did you know women weren't allowed to wrestle in many states in America back in the day? Yeah, there were a bunch of laws. First, wrestling happened, and everyone loved it, and wrestling got really big. And women wrestlers were there from the beginning. Yeah. And then, people got to be bossy, and they were like, okay, no women's wrestling now. And so it became something that wasn't allowed to happen in a lot of states.
Basically, anytime you're like, why aren't there any women doing X? Know that they're there for the beginning, and then some dude got in a snit and was like, they can't do this anymore.
Computers, video games, like literally, she's telling y'all some truth right now.
Literally, comics.
We're always there, and then we get kicked the fuck out.
And then we're gonna be like,
and then we gotta fight our way back.
Yep. We're still here.
We're still here. Up. Suck a dick.
Suck
a lady dick.
S-O-D. S-O-D.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because that was really awesome.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Kenny Omega and Jericho that much. If you had anything else, any other thoughts to share about that?
I think it's pretty interesting, especially because it's like Jericho, because it's like that's not like,
he's been dad with a scarf for a while for us. Yeah.
So now he's like coming out with like, well, he still has the hairband because he does that. But he's coming out and just like open up dudes' faces and like proper like almost like 2002 heel Jericho like moves. And it's really interesting.
He has not wrestled outside of the WWE since 1999.
Oh wow.
We was BBs. Little BBs the last time he did it.
Wow.
Do you have any thoughts about this?
No, I'm just excited for Jericho.
Yeah, it should be really interesting. Yeah. And it, like, because we were talking about before about people not want like taking something that is gonna hurt or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like Jericho's the reason why Jericho's like 50 and still wrestling is he is really good at like taking something either safely or knowing when to flinch from it or when to move from it so it doesn't hit him as hard, but you can't tell. Yeah. Every once in a while, like there'll be a thing where a kick comes at him, he's like, nope. And like you could just, it's so like incrementally different, but he still takes it. Mm-hmm. Who were we watching what he was doing? He was just like, no.
I can't remember.
Was it Randy?
Yes, it was Randy. Randy does that a lot, where he's like, I'm not taking this.
Yeah. He's like, no. Yeah. Randy like just straight up is like, no. like a full it's like a full couple of inches, and you're like, come on, Randy. You could have waited just a second.
Or when someone throws a kick at somebody and they're just I'm going up out of the way.
Nope.
It's safe. Protect yourself. That's what they tell us as wrestlers. Protect your body and stuff like that. You always want to make stuff look realistic, but when you can.
And I do feel like there's occasionally wrestlers who kind of don't. Like I bet wrestling Asuka hurts.
Yes, it looks like it hurts.
It looks like it hurts. And, taking a knee from Shinsuke just probably really hurts.
I saw Kenny Omega do his knee enough that I'm not afraid of taking his knee, actually.
Okay.
I see what he's doing with it, and I'm like, I would take that knee.
Yeah.
I don't know about all the other knees. Nope. Japanese wrestlers seem to not give a fuck.
No, they don't. They really don't. They're like, yeah, hit me.
My friend just recently wrestled somebody who had come back from Japan, and that person just went willy-nilly kicking him. And he's like, I think my eardrum's ruptured. Also, most of those were on my jaw. He has a big old bruise down the side of his face, like a neck. And it's like, in Japan, they are just on another level.
They're
doing their thing.
No, sir. No, thank you.
No.
That would be a nay.
No.
Also, I think that Nia, I don't think, as careful as she wants to be.
I don't think she's careful at all.
I don't think she's that careful, but also as careful as she wants to be, I just think things are going to hurt with her because of just sheer mass.
She's very big. I've mentioned before, my big problem with Nia is she's not very careful. She's not very safe with people's bodies.
Like, versus Alexa, who's very strong, but also tiny.
Easy.
So, like, she's I
think she's my size. Maybe smaller.
Small.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for talking with me about the new year. Victoria, tell people if you have anywhere they could follow you or any information you want to share with them. Feel free, now is the time.
You can just look up Victory A. Van Tran and you'll find me.
And Tamara.
At the MisfitsTamara. Add it on them Instagrams and add it on my Twitters.
I am at SarahTheRebel everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, your mom's house, wherever you look for me, there I am, SarahTheRebel. I am also going to tell you that you should follow us on Twitter, Women Wrestling F. We couldn't fit the whole name in there, so Women Wrestling F. We have an Instagram, but we don't have the password. If anyone knows how to hack Instagram, hit your girl up. And we will see you on the next episode in 2018.